What's up, guys? I'm Matt.
And I'm Drew.
And you're watching the Boomerang Podcast.
And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the RNC debates that took place last night. And at the same competing time was the Tucker and Trump interview. Which one did you watch, Matt?
Trump. I didn't watch Republican debates. Are you kidding me?
How do you look?
It looked fantastic. Looked strong. His hair looked fantastic. Well-spoken. What do you think?
Well, I watched a little bit of both. And with the RNC, it really is essentially a waste of time, But if anything, it's probably to pick out who's going to be VP. The questions they asked, I didn't think were extremely relevant. Chris Christie was basically getting booed off stage. I thought Vivek was strong, but I expected that going in. And then I also watched some of the Trump interview with Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that during the debate, Chris Christie was eating under the podium. that was I heard that somewhere. No, I think my takeaway from the Trump interview with Tucker was they really hit on, I think, the very important issues. I think what it signals, if you really listen to each topic that they discuss, is it signals that there really is no 2024 election. I just don't see it happening. You have too many things like Dominion voting machines still in place. None of this stuff's been addressed, and I think you almost have to go through the fraud again in order for people to really wake up this time. Because, I mean, unless you solve 2020, you don't have 2024.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, if you just listen to what's going on in the news, they're slowly thinking about bringing mask mandates and, there's a new variant and a new thing. And
what a
really,
coincidence.
Yeah, perfect timing for an election coming up, right? And ultimately what they want to do is the whole mail-in voting scheme again.
Yep. And even with the mail-in voting scheme and all this stuff, they're not going to be able to do it. I mean, even in 2020, they didn't pull it off. I mean, I've heard an estimate that he got about 110 million votes to Biden's something I heard around maybe 9 or 10 million. That's what I heard about 2020. I mean, who knows? But my whole thing is that Trump, what he talked about with Tucker was actually very interesting. Brought up people like James Comey, the insurance policy, right? I think what this country needs to do is we need to go through these issues once again, the Russia nonsense, right? The Ukraine nonsense. I think we need to start bringing these people back to the same issues that they created, because that's what Trump's move is, right? Is he's going to take the move you use against him and he's going to bury you with it. So what I would look for Trump to be doing would be bringing back up Russia, bringing back the insurance policy, because my understanding is in the FISA report, which, by the way, Trump never released yet. Keep that in mind. Right. My understanding is that the insurance policy involved assassination plans against Trump, right? And coincidentally, in the Tucker Carlson interview, it's actually it's a little bit spooky, but Tucker Carlson kept saying, "Oh, and why haven't they tried to kill you?" Right. And you can actually see Trump kind of drop down as he says it. And it's just very telling, because I've heard that there's been many assassination attempts against Trump. Right. That's what they wanted to do initially. So I just don't see the purpose of watching a Republican debate. I don't see any purpose of even taking part in political whatever, voting or anything until 2020 gets solved.
Yeah.
And I think a completely different set of events needs to take place.
Yeah. And like I said, I think for me, it was watching, I'd like to see who's going to make a fool of themselves, or who's lying, or who's, hiding fries underneath the podium.
Absolutely.
As you might say. But also, who might be a good candidate for VP, right? And I think that's probably what I took out of it mostly. When they start talking about things like UFOs, they don't bring up, any kind of voting irregularities, then they're not talking about the issues.
Exactly. And I think the interview with Tucker, Trump does talk about the issues, right? He talks about what's pertinent to American society. He's talking about the real issues, right? He's talking about
the things people are actually talking about. Yeah. The everyday person is actually discussing and wondering, what the hell is going on.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I mean, I don't see 2024 happening until you solve 2020. And this process, like you said, there's going to be COVID, probably another set of COVID lockdowns. There's a new variant. What's this variant called?
Yeah.
Erin or something? Yeah. Arid. Right. So they're just going to continue with the same schemes. It's always the same plays by the deep state, right? It's always the same playbook. Yeah. And we know that they're going to be throwing that at us. So in my view, I wouldn't be taking presidential debates very seriously. It'll be interesting to see what happens with more indictments, right? I think we have some indictments coming here in Arizona against Trump.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me one bit, especially with Katie Hobbs here and just the corruption that we have as our politicians. I think overall, Trump not doing the debates, him doing the thing with Tucker is a net positive for him. I don't think there was any positive for him to go on those debates and stand up there with 8 people who are just going to try to shit on him the whole time. So I think he played it smart. You got a 50, 60-point lead. Why even go up there and entertain it?
Yeah, and I mean, look at it like this. Do you really think Ronna McDaniel of the RNC is going to even allow Trump to be the candidate? I think what Trump has to do, and I think what he's going to do, is create the third party, which is the America First Party, and he's going to run on that platform. And then I think what he can do, as I've said in prior episodes, is I think he can pull from Democrats and Republicans alike as more stuff gets exposed and really build up the biggest base, right? To basically take the whole Republican Party, take a good chunk of the Democrat Party, boom, you can legitimately seal the vote.
Yeah.
Now, whether that vote gets counted, that's a different story. And I think really that's the point I'm trying to make, is I don't see those issues being addressed anywhere. And until you address that, it's like,
how can you have the next election?
Yeah, it's whoever counts the votes wins.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a terrible place to be. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens, I would be looking really for those issues to be getting addressed. How we're going to attack Dominion, right? Dominion voting machines. I mean, I heard that the 2020 election was counted overseas in China. Did you hear that?
Yeah. And overseas China, some places in Europe.
Yep. And as Jan Halper Hayes said, and I always love referencing this interview because I think it's so pertinent, but she spoke about how Space Force has been tracking election fraud.
Sure.
They have the data.
Yeah.
So when do they come out? Interesting to see, right?
Yeah.
So I think another set of events has to happen in order, because the public's getting pissed right now. I mean, the public's really getting pissed. But I think another set of events could be indictments. You'll see it here in Arizona. You probably see it in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, right? Until people really hit the precipice is when I really think that's when Space Force is going to have to step in.
Yeah. And I think a good time would be, and as we discussed before, now that he's been charged criminally and he gets due process, all these things that we're talking about can now come to light,
exactly.
Right? And so if he does have evidence, if there is, information and data from Space Force that he can use and bring into these courts, like he might be able to have one trial and, quash 90% of this,
right.
If not even prove his case and show election fraud, right? It's all about getting it out there and waking people up. So I'm actually looking forward to the cases, the indictments that come through. I think it gives him an opportunity to share what he has and what he knows. And like you said, Trump's always going to be a counterpuncher, and he's going to use what they took the methods they used against him, and he's going to use it back against them, right? So, you want to sue me, you want to indict me, you want to bring me to court? Great. Now I'm going to come to court and absolutely shred your argument and prove my case.
Right. 100%. And furthermore, I think when he talks about, he keeps talking about the Manchurian candidate, right? You hear him saying that.
Yep.
Who he's really talking about is not Joe Biden. I believe he's really talking about Obama. Right. And I think part of this election cycle, what the Democrats want to do is they want to bring Michelle in. Right. They want to bring Big Mike. Big Mike played football for Oregon State. That's where Michael Avon Robinson initially played football, and then got transferred, and then kind of the rest is a mystery, right?
Right.
Because he's a football running back that went missing in the 1980s.
Right.
And that's who Michelle Obama is, of course. So I think it'll be very interesting to bring Obama in the spotlight, because realistically, what are we talking about? We're talking about things like Ukraine, right? Ukraine's on everybody's mind. Well, where did Ukraine start? Started in 2014 under Obama.
Yep.
Right? So I think we need to start bringing the players into the spotlight, namely Obama, right? The people really behind the coup, the initial coup against Trump in 2016. Until you start exposing these people, that's the information I'd be looking for. All this Republican...
Who are the puppet masters?
Yeah, who are the puppet masters?
Joe Biden's not running the show on anything.
He's not.
He has no say on anything. He's told what to do. I mean, everybody sees it. He's got the IQ of a doorknob. He's got to be told what part of the stage to get off and what to read. When they zoom in on his little cheat sheets, and it's like, you sit down, you cross your leg.
It's a joke. It's a joke. Yeah, I mean, I would say to people, don't worry about the Republican debates. Follow what Trump's talking about. Follow what Trump's doing. And I think that'll lead us to truth. I think he's the truth teller in all this. He's the guy that's coming out and really, could be very subtly, but exposing who these people really are. And until people really understand who somebody like Obama is and Michelle Obama, until people really understand who these players are, you don't have a country.
Yep, absolutely. Well, it's been interesting. Is there anything else you want to add? Or?
I'm good. It's a good segment.
Right on. I guess I'll just end this with end quote.
End quote.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please hit the like, comment, and subscribe button below, and we'll see you next episode.